Hi there, I'm here with Hannah Williams from Meltwater. Hi Hannah.
Hey.
You okay?
Yeah,
So good. And today Hannah's going to give us her best social media tool.
Okay, so I'm going to go for Meltwater's social media monitoring tool. Basically what it does is tracks the thousands of conversations happening every minute online, and then you can track a particular brand, keyword or industry to find out where you're being mentioned online. It then breaks it down into sentiment, geographical spread, trending themes, so you can get an idea of exactly what the majority of your audience is saying about you and then adapt your strategy from there.
Wow, so it's really good and really detailed.
Yeah.
So where can people go to find this tool?
So if you just go to meltwater.com/UK, we've got all the information on all our tools on there.
Brilliant. Thanks, Hannah.
Cheers.
Welcome back to the social show. I'm with Alex Packham, who's the founder of Content Cow.
That's the one.
Thanks for having us in.
No worries, welcome to the office.
So Alex, how did you get started in social media marketing?
So it was a while ago now. This story used to start, it was 2 years ago, now it's 10. So yeah, give or take 10 years ago, my first encounter of social was actually at uni. So I was at Cardiff University studying business management, and I was watching and choosing how I went to different bars, restaurants, or basically any commercial decision I made around buying something was being influenced by Facebook, particularly at the time, and friends' recommendations, but also pages in their really early format. And as I was studying business, marketing was something I was really interested in, and I just thought this was going to be a thing. Started to do a lot of reading on social media today, which was a really early blog, which is still going now obviously, but at the time it was really, really early stage, and just seeing if there were like-minded people out there, which thankfully there were loads. So I started a tiny consultancy at uni, managing 2 clients' Facebook pages, of which I just pitched them. This was going to be a thing. They paid me a small amount of money per month to manage it, and that went quite well. I also created this viral site called Cardiff Banter, which didn't go anywhere. That was a big fail one. So we've all had to go with stuff that doesn't work out right. And then graduated uni with a degree and a small tiny client base under my belt, and a lot of experience, working out how to run a tiny business, working out how Facebook pages, Twitter pages and stuff like that could actually grow. And one of the mentors I had at the time sort of said, before you start a company in this properly, go and get some corporate experience, because I never did it, so I think it would be a really good exercise for you. So 21 years old, luckily, and through a lot of hard work, got my first job at Odeon Cinemas as their first social media employee. Worked with an agency to kind of take some of the stuff in-house and re-gear their social media plan for how I saw fit at the young age of 21, but very engaged in the social world. Which was really successful, and then left there just because there was no progression at that time, and went to work for Now TV, which was part of Sky. So Now TV was very much a challenger brand that Sky had created to compete with Netflix. Had 40 people when I joined, or 50 people, and social was a big part of their plan because Netflix was kind of this brand that had just landed in the UK. They had House of Cards, I think it was at the time, and it just exploded, and we were working on a scrappy startup version within Sky. And social was like the way to get to market, or one of the ways anyway. So did that for 2 years, and that was a big journey because Sky has huge budgets. We spent a lot of money on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all the other stuff that you'd expect for a company with big deep pockets and a natural advertiser. And learned a lot about TV, press, radio, every piece of the marketing puzzle. So that was a great experience, but I wanted to start my own company since the age of 16. So at 23 years old, after my 4 years in corporate, or 3.5 years, I said to Sky, I'm off to start an agency, which I called ASTP, and that was to take this knowledge that I'd accumulated from these big corporates and almost go back to my roots as a young person and start an agency, managing social accounts, doing some paid ads, doing content strategy and stuff like that. Got very lucky that Sky took me back in for 3 days a week and gave me 2 days off to do my own thing. So that was game changing for me, and I didn't, for anyone who wants to ever start their own thing, that's a possibility. And ended up making more money doing that somehow with them than being full time, but that's the freelancer market, so that's the way that goes. And then that agency grew organically over a 2-year period, so that was 2015 to 17. Gaining clients. We're in central London, so we had a lot of access to different businesses and getting companies really to take a risk on a new agency who had some good creds but needed to get through the door, applying this big thinking to smaller budgets. So that's how I got started in social. I mean, Content Cow as a concept was sort of born off the back of that, if you like. So
So in your sort of mind, you're running this agency. You've come off the bat. You're working with some great brands. Who then goes and thinks, right, I need to build a content calendar?
Me, when I was 23, exactly, when I was 24. So, because I have a very entrepreneurial style brain, I mean, I know I wanted to do this, but what I didn't want to do as soon as I got off the starting block in business, so to speak, was raise capital because I didn't have a clue what to do. After a while, the content idea was itching at me to go from scribbles in a book to something real. And through one of our clients, I persuaded their development company, who I'd been working with, to give us a prototype for some sweat equity at the time, which was really brave of them, but it took us on our path. So they built a really basic version that I could test with the agency client. So I set up a separate business, I gave them a tiny percentage, and I said, build me the tool, and I'll take it from there, basically. And then we slowly but surely started to just implement Content Cal into the agency clients, and this was a long time ago now, it feels like, so it was a really basic version. There was no approvals or anything like that. It was just a calendar of tweets and Facebook posts, etc. But all the clients loved it, and on top of that, all our agency staff loved it as well because it just saved loads of time. So off the back of that, I then thought, could I make some money out of this? So we started saying, would the clients actually pay for it? And then I went back into Sky also because I knew this was a huge problem in bigger businesses, and slowly but surely started to make some money. So imminently after that, and somewhere in 2015, raised 150k of angel investment from friends, family and contacts in the industry, which took a little while, but people got it because we had a good story, and built the first real version of Content Cal beyond that, and then just started to implement the business models as you went from there. And then in 2016, did an accelerator. So I was running the agency, this content calendar idea had legs, but I just had no idea what to do next. It's called the Accelerator Academy, which was introduced to us through one of our investors, one of the earlier stage investors. And it was revolutionary. I met a mentor who was also an active angel investor. You go through these stages of how they educate you along your journey and what you need to get to become pitchable for proper investment. And then at the end of it, you do a pitch to VCs, angels, etc. So it's about 150 people. 6 months after that, we raised £500,000, and that was, that could be defined as the real defining moment of Content Cal actually becoming a business, really. So we merged our agency and software business into one, got this cash, brought on people who were freelancing in the product business into the business full time. So we've got a sales and marketing team, and product team and development team and stuff like that, and then tried to basically scale from there. And without going into the long story of it, we then raised another $500,000 because we started to get traction, and then raised 600k a couple of months ago now because we started to get more and really built out the freemium model, understand how to build software for companies that want it, which is agencies, brands, etc., freelancers, that works really well, define all the use cases and all the scale models and stuff like that off the back of it. So I've got loads of bags under the horizon. So I was there for 3 years, but it's a whirlwind journey when you create all those different models and you do go client side to agency side to SaaS business. But you learn a lot.
Well, it's been really interesting, watching you over the last few years kind of grow. And I kind of guess, going back to when you came out with the idea. What was the idea born out of? Was it frustration with the existing products on the market?
Yes, I mean, I have done all the jobs in social media, I think. I mean, I've done the writing, I've done the community management. They used to be called Alex from Rodian on the Facebook page. They used to have this massive brand around that little thing on Facebook. But I've done all the jobs, and one of the things which frustrated me the most, being the implementer, was if you create a calendar of any sort in marketing, and this goes for social media and anything else, it's always done in Excel. You then have 5 different versions of that Excel. You might then have a version of Google Docs, and then you've got to deal with the team who's not even in the same room. And I could just see it. I could just sense the madness. You'd have your marketing director who wants to know what's going on but doesn't want to sit in a spreadsheet. So I just had this feeling for a long time that it was valid, and then I scribbled all these ideas around it. And then when I actually took the leap of faith to start the agency, the bit that really did it for me was every company had the same problem. So Sky, huge organisation, nearly 200 people in marketing had the problem, but so did a small business with 5 people. And that's when I thought, I've got to have a go at this, basically. And that's really where it all stemmed from. And it's what a lot of people don't realise is, especially if you're a senior stakeholder, the time suck of those things in a day-to-day job. And if you're astute to business and you're in a more implementation role, let's say, the value of minimising that is enormous. and actually how you can use that to either utilise someone's time in something more valuable or have less staff, or it might be, not necessarily the right way to do it, but like how do you basically create more value within your existing resources through software? Because I'm an absolute nerd, like that's what I just saw it and it just locked onto it, and when I get my head around something, I'm in. Yeah. But anyway, we've had our experimentation phases within all of that, and we've had tried things which haven't worked, we've had loads of things which have, and what you're able to do after being around as long as we have, and I've been around the social media industry for a period of time, is to kind of get a good sense as to where the industry is going, a good sense of what is and isn't going to happen, and build stuff that kind of follows that journey. But also, cards on the table, build stuff which is de-linked to the social networks in a way as well, because you don't want to rely completely on the Facebooks and the Twitters. So process management, workflow, storing assets, stuff like that, that again is really important to businesses to get right, which links to people's day jobs. And I think the other thing is I like working, so I don't want people to, my worst nightmare is people coming to work and just think I've got this laborious process I have to do. So it's all that geeky stuff that you really think about when you're building it and what the framework of the product could be. But then you see people using it in the way we've got it now, you start to think, okay, the little bits start to add up, kind of thing.
So what have been the most challenging things over the last few years? I mean, not just with the build, but I kind of guess that you've gone through
my beatings and that. Yeah.
And that's got a bit of a learning curve.
It is a big learning curve. Investment, it's almost like you get better by the round, to be honest with you, and you get more confident, and as a business person you learn more as you grow. So investment isn't necessarily, it's one of the biggest learning curves, but I never found it challenging. I've never found it particularly challenging just because of the way I am to talk, as you can probably tell. But talking about something I'm passionate about comes across, and that's a lot of time what actually people invest in. Yeah, they love the concepts, that's a big tick in the box. They believe you're credible, but it's your passion and your drive to be relentless, because ideas are good, but ideas that aren't executed correctly with passion don't go anywhere. The biggest learning curves I've had are hiring is very difficult. Finding good people is very, very tough, and keeping them's hard. I think everybody says that, but it's so true. And it becomes even more staggering when you actually start bringing people on and building a team. So that is tough. And actually in London in particular, the talent market is wrapped up in a lot of companies already. Media agencies, social agencies, they know how hard it is, so they don't let people go. But also, just one of the other things around people and building the company is you've got to set your vision very, very clearly to everyone around you. So something that's really clear in my head, that I think is crystal clear and the story's really right, and then have a conversation with someone and they've got a different view on it, or they don't quite get it, and I'm like,
nothing like that blank look. No, you're just giving them the answer to solve all the world's problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, but then it's a different challenge you have to get your head around. So I can go, listen, I believe it, I'm into it, this is the plan. You need to bring people with you, especially if you want good people to stay. So those are the biggest challenges. The other thing is technology. I'm not a developer, I'm not a technology person, so as someone who started a business in tech, learning that has been a big job, and getting my head around what certain decisions mean that can, to me actually, I don't understand it at all, but understanding the dynamics of choosing your technology languages, choosing where you choose to host the tech, and that sort of stuff. And then the final thing I'd say is we actually merged an agency and a software business together, and even though technically they were both my brainchilds, if you like, that was tough.
Yeah, but very different.
So I do not, different cultures, different types of people, different business models. So I think my hat off to anyone who's ever gone through bigger mergers and acquisitions, because it's not easy. So I'd say that for me has been probably the biggest challenge. But we've literally just to this last 2 months really got beyond that stage of everything is now very aligned, our mission is very aligned, and Content Cow has got past what I'm calling the scrappy startup stage, and is very much a predictable growth journey forward. Yeah. Which is it comes with its new challenges at that stage, and it's very exciting to be in that position. But I'm sure there's plenty of bumps along the road as we go from here. There's no twist about that.
So you think moving everybody into the one office, as you just recently moved, haven't you?
Yes, so having everyone under one roof has made a big difference. Having a better office environment, so we've had what I would again call scrappy startup offices, because this is new to us, I assure you. Having management aligned, having your board and your investors aligned. So all these things which you don't have a clue about when you first start, you have to really learn. I mean, luckily, again, having worked in a corporate stakeholder management is something you have to get your head around quite quickly, which I know you've had stuff with as well. So we've all had to get our heads around that. It's like this invisible skill, really. but it's hugely important to know. But yeah, having everyone on one roof makes a big difference. And then actually, what you realise when you get to the stage we're at now is you can predict some of the future. So you know what you're going to build for a year in advance. We roughly know what that's going to be. We roughly know what we're going to spend on marketing. We know what events we're going to, like you guys. We know what works and what doesn't. And we just need to scale the stuff that does. And then experiment a little bit more as you go.
Yeah.
Which is really important as a startup and everything else. Because if you stop doing that, you actually do lose this element of innovation and risk-taking that you originally started out with all of.
So you want to try and keep that?
You have to. Yeah, you just have to. I mean, I can see, for example, and we're still small, but as you get bigger, your risk aversion just generally gets higher.
Yeah.
Just because you've got more to lose.
Yeah.
So I can see how the correlation tends to form. But I'm an entrepreneurial character, so I'll always take risks, and I've got a lot of people that pump the brakes on me here on various things I would have done ages ago, but then that's the way it is. But if you don't keep that in your mind, you're constantly working on stuff that you've had planned always in the past in your head. You're not thinking about what potentially the next thing could be, or what the next feature the person might need, or I don't know what Facebook might change next week or whatever it might be. So you've got to have your finger on the button. But then it becomes less about my role and actually a lot more about the teams. And that's something I've enjoyed, is that motivating people to be really passionate about coming up with that stuff and not relying on one person. Because anyone who talks about business in general is you can't have a company that relies on one or two individuals. In reality, look at Tesla at the moment and Elon Musk, it's really tough even at that level to have this one hero personality. You need a team. You need a really, really clever team and people that get it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Talking about platforms and the frequent changes. So what are the trends that you're seeing from the user base at the moment?
Yeah, so we're seeing, whatever we're seeing in the industry is more people are understanding the concept of planning. Yes. It sounds ridiculous, so it shouldn't be that hard, but so many companies, and you'd be shocked because we talked to some big names, do not plan. And actually, I talked to a lot of mid-sized companies who are turning over 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s of millions of pounds. Don't plan any of their marketing. And that blows my mind, having had a big marketing background. I'm sure it blows yours as well. But
so are you talking, are we talking sort of campaigns, or are we talking then scaling that down into a weekly level?
I'm talking everything. I'm talking, I've been into companies that have looked at Content Cow and go, I love the concept of that bit in the software, but we actually haven't really done much on what we're planning to do with social media at all. Wow. And they turn over 30, 40 million pounds. And they're either in a growing market, so they've still got growth to come, and we've also had some companies come to us and say, we're actually in a declining market because we haven't put any money into this. Help, basically. So, and that's like one extreme. We also have lots of small companies that just go, we get the social media thing, and we like the idea of planning in advance. So that might sound really stupid, but it's just like anything. If you do not plan it, it's not going to work properly. And so one of the things we've noticed is people came to us, which I never thought would happen at the time, even a year ago, and said, can we use Content Cow and not schedule? So my view was always actually you want to create the plan and then schedule it. And I go, actually no, I don't want to schedule anything. I just want to plan it and approve it, or just plan it in general. So that, for me, shows huge confidence, and it's just it's 100% a change in the social industry in general as well, because a lot of people are very reactive. Social is still a young industry in itself, but it also has very young, but in my opinion, by a larger way, young people that work in it, who aren't actually that experienced in marketing, for the whole marketing mix. So they have slightly tinted eyes on what does and doesn't work. So planning holistically, strategically looking at social, wanting software that does bring it all onto one piece of paper, whatever it may be, or one screen if you like. Collaboration, so that's the other thing in terms of features you're saying. Collaboration is becoming more and more important. So the ability to have multiple users within Content Cow, but then also take the data from Content Cow and put it into HubSpot or Google Docs or whatever. So integrations is something we haven't had for a while, but we've got coming soon, for example, which I know is going to be huge because we've just been asked, does it talk to this, talk to that? So that's something. Analytics, we were talking about just before we came on camera, that is becoming obviously more and more important. People want data behind what they're doing, so we've rebuilt that, so that's coming out soon as well. And things I think are coming, which we haven't done a huge amount of work in yet, is mobile. So there are a lot of apps that you'll see which will get number one to the top of the free app store thing, that would be really cool video creation tools or picture editing tools and stuff like that, which we've not done a lot of work yet in that content creator bit, which is the really true creator character, again, stuff we were talking about before around I create videos, I want to be able to edit them on my phone, I create this bit of content, I want to be able to do it all from my iPhone, and then I can either sell that to a brand or work with a brand, or I work with a company and I'm doing it for that, blah, blah, blah. So we've not really done a lot with that on that device, and that's something we've looked at in detail from our own planning point of view. Because I can see a Content Cow standalone app, for example, becoming very popular, which will either talk to your desktop app or won't, depending on your use case. And I see that becoming more and more important as you think stories are rising, snapshots, content has gone from images to videos, whether we like it or not.
And live stream, of course.
Live streaming, so I definitely see trends in that. So I see quite a rapid period of the networks coming up with these concepts, like live video, let's say, rolling it out and saying it's the next big thing and seeing what happens.
And you've also got, like Amazon with Twitch, trying to
get that piece of the pie. Yeah, so you'll definitely see, in my opinion as well, in the next 5 years, a new social network of some sort pop up. Whether they get acquired very quickly or not, or whether they get acquired and shut down, I wouldn't know. But there's got to be something in play at the moment, because Facebook's having its fun and games, Instagram is obviously growing massively, Snapchat's had its moment, is a bit in an unknown area, and I don't know if you've heard of Nextdoor.
Nextdoor, no.
Really, really clever. It is a localized social network, so you only really connect with the people in your local area. But I use it, for example, in Wandsworth, and it's become much more of a utility. So it is local people trading stuff or putting out this road is closed, and it's actually really useful. But I can see you've got your wide networks, and they are going to get, well, some of them are going to get smaller. And therefore local marketing, so stores, shops, anything that does business in a local area which is in a vicinity, but still being able to deliver scale as well, I find that very interesting. And I think that is probably the one that a lot of people don't seem to know about, because I mentioned to quite a few people that no, I've never heard of that. But they actually got me, they actually put a letter through my letterbox full enough to get me to
right marketing.
Yeah, exactly. So it was old school, but it worked. So I see stuff like that definitely coming up and becoming more important to people. And there's rich content mediums, basically.
And what about the sort of trends within the agencies themselves? I mean, we continually hear that one of the biggest trends is that brands are taking the skill sets more and more in-house.
Yeah.
And, from an agency growth perspective, particularly on the agency growth panel at last social day, a lot of smaller agencies, there may not be, there might be a different need for them.
Yeah.
So, are you seeing more of the brands start to
do that?
Yeah.
So, two things to think about. Brands will have, generally speaking, generalist roles. So, if you go to a big brand, they'll have 2 or 3 people in a social / more in marketing department, say 2 or 3 people in a social who typically can do a bit of everything. What they're not very good at is then the specialising in certain elements of the work, but also just by nature of the way the teams work, as a brand, it's really hard to describe. You're not constantly servicing your client, so you haven't got that mentality where you're doing an agency where it's like the client is the thing you work for, and to do that you must be really, really up to date with the social networks. You must be the thought leader. Really live and die by providing that service to our clients. So I don't see that expertise going away, and actually we're finding we're getting more of that. So previously, 4 years ago, I would be able to go into a company and say, we'll run your Twitter, Facebook, blah, 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 do your community management, do your paid, and basically run the whole thing. Outsource it to us. You'll have one person on the other side who approves everything, and then they've got another day job in reality. That's kind of gone. So what I do find is that brands have taken the in-house bits, so the posting, the community management, all that. That's in-house. Those days aren't really coming back, in my opinion. Advertising, so buying media, typically we still see as outsourced to agencies. So I think getting your skill sets in paid, optimizing accounts, looking at the future of how to manage media strategies, I don't see that going in-house unless a brand buys a lot of media and it's actually worth investing in the team to do that. So if you're a medium or small social media company, you're providing content expertise with advertising is definitely a win. Yeah. Providing management of accounts, unless in the super small industries, that's definitely a thing. So lots of small businesses still want to outsource that. But you start to go up the gravy train to mid/corporate businesses. That's in house. So there's a broad spectrum. One thing I will say is that there's no perfect model. We have nearly 10,000 people sign up to Content Cow now, and it grows every day. I must have worked with over 100 businesses in the last 2 years, and some of them still come to us and say, I don't want to do it. Do the whole lot and we'll pay you for it and just crack on. I think the agency model, to stay small and lean, so if you're an agency which is 3 to 10 people, you can build a really successful business in this space. Once you start to get to 15, 20, 30, you start to feel the pinch a little bit from clients as well.
So if you lose a big account, that's
the other thing. Yeah, it could be devastating for your company. So it's a tricky one. I will caveat the whole thing. If you're doing it in America, they haven't changed at all. We have lots of companies that use the platform in America that still do everything for clients, and the old agency client model is still rife there. It really has stuck, and I think that's because there's more money in it at the end of the day, the way they actually do things, and it's just the way they work. Whereas I think in Britain, in particular, in the UK, a lot of companies are getting a bit more in-house, just in general by nature, I think. I don't see any radical lean one way or the other, to be honest with you, at the moment. I think there are some basic skills you have to have in-house, and I think there's some basic skills people are having. I don't see people taking media buying in-house en masse. I don't see people being able to keep up with the changes. Yeah. So it's an interesting question. But the thing that I've lived and died by for the past 5 years, and will continue to really, as long as we've got content rocking and rolling, is that this market is growing substantially. Every time a new business is created, they're not going to do TV, radio, press first. They can do social media. So every time a company starts, there's a new client potentially for someone to help them get started. Every time that company grows, they want to grow with you if you've done a good job. So I think last year, in January alone, so in Q1, there was 500,000 businesses started in the UK. Extrapolate that globally, it's enormous. And that's why the size of the social media industry is just growing, and content marketing is just growing and growing and growing, because it's the most cost-effective way to do marketing, period. Once you've got the cash, go into TV, go into radio, go into press, go into some more old-school stuff, traditional, I shouldn't say old-school. But it's just painfully cost-effective to get social content and search right for a relative low cost versus doing it all or trying to start with TV advertising, unless you've got some business that desperately needs TV.
You also get direct feedback as well, can't you? Which you can't necessarily.
I mean, yeah. Do you know what? You nailed it on the head. I wrote a piece 5 years ago that said why the next generation. I've reread this at the time pop up, which is why there's one lines of the next generation of marketers will value two-way engagement over one-way. And that social media is the only way to do that. You do a TV ad, you're not getting direct feedback on.
You put a phone number on it.
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
You do a Facebook post, Twitter post, put the right budget behind it, and actually ask a question, or even just market a product. You get feedback within 30 seconds, whether you like it or not. So yeah, I think the buyers of that have got that as well. You know, we've now got a generation of marketers coming into the decision-making roles that were grow up on Facebook, they didn't grow up on TV, and that will change the game massively.
Yeah, I just finally, where do you see over the next 12 months? I mean, this industry going. You mentioned a few of the more localized platforms. Yeah. But in terms of the major platforms, I mean, what trends are you predicting?
So I predict, or I think anyway, that we will see calls for regulation left, right, and centre, and I think that's fine. I think it's probably the right thing to do. I think we'll see Facebook really internalise. I think what they have done and what they will do is put a lot of stuff that they maybe released too early, or people didn't realise they had like a lot of data stuff they had in targeting, put it away, but they'll find other ways to bring it back to market. So I think they've already done that with a few things, and they'll do it really cleverly. But then regulation will eventually come in to actually, not control, but do what it's supposed to, regulate the right stuff to do in the industry, which is done in all the other forms of media to advertising anyway.
Getting them to admit they're a publisher.
Exactly, yeah, that sort of stuff, yeah, precisely. So I see that happening. I see, or what I actually really am taking a lot of pleasure in at the moment, that Twitter seems to have found its niche. Whether it feels like that internally or not, I certainly think it, and that it's not trying to be a Facebook, and actually where they've created threaded comments and just some of the other features, I can't remember some of them they've introduced, I've started to love it again. So I think that hopefully what they'll do is they'll be like, this is our company, this is how we're going to roll now, and actually just deliver more stuff around that.
I've always liked listening to Bruce and David Social Day.
Yeah.
But I think with that fake followers stuff,
exactly.
and the amount of bots that they seem to be taking down daily now, whereas I think before it was being ignored.
Of course it was.
And now it's, you know.
The biggest problem with networks is when you go public and you float on the stock market, analysts don't know whether you've got 30,000 bots joining a month or not, and actually they don't really care because the numbers go up, stock price goes up. As soon as the networks have a moral obligation / regulatory obligation to report that, like Twitter, like you just said, done the right thing, deleted bots, yet their share price decreased. But they haven't actually removed anyone who was real. So get your head around that. So they devalued their company by doing the right thing because Wall Street doesn't understand how it works, which is difficult for anyone. But I think all of that is a good thing for any social media marketer. So you've cleaned up your industry, which is about right because it's been around for about 10, 11 years. And there's only good things to come after that, in my opinion. And rebuild trust with some consumers if needed. As I said, I definitely see growth in local platforms. I don't think that's at the cost of the existing networks. I think that's on top of. So I definitely foresee that. And I foresee mobile phones just becoming more and more important to the way any business and any network and anyone marketing on social networks get more and more important. We still do presentations and meetings on screens that are this big, whereas actually they should all be on a tiny iPhone because that's where everyone lives. So I definitely see that. But I think the main thing for anyone who's in social media marketing is if you're doing the advertising pieces, I see ad tech getting really complex because Twitter, Facebook, in particular, all the social networks have built their own versions of ad technology providers that they don't need them anymore. You can do everything that you can do on an ad tech provider in a Facebook manager. So that's a tough place to be at the moment. And I don't see that getting any better. So I think companies maturing as the industry matures is definitely something I've noticed. And companies now playing catch up are on the back burner. So companies like us, companies like anyone who's in the social media marketing industry should be finding those opportunities to actually help companies do what they need to do at this stage to make social the best it can be. Because we've got past the stage of, is it actually worth doing? Yes. Yeah. Categorically, yes, it adds value. So, make the most of the opportunity as the industry matures. Really, I think that's the main thing I'd say.
Well, Alex, thanks so much for taking the time out to talk to us. Thank you very much.
Always. Cheers. Thank you.
That's good. Good.